Hello, this is Craig, and this is another mindfulness video. The theme for this one is thinking. What are thoughts? This is a gentle exploration video on what thoughts are, and also what to do with them when they seem a bit overwhelming, when we're overthinking, when we're overanalyzing things, because that causes us a lot of pain and suffering in our body. So, thoughts. Um, they're magical, aren't they? They just seem to appear. Um, a lot of our thoughts, you could say our brain has a store. There's a store consciousness here. Our brain can remember things. We have memory. Most thoughts come from memory. So I can think of names and labels and objects and things that I've seen in the past, people, and I can think about those people or those things. Um, so there's a memory there, there's a remembrance of what we've experienced, and that can come back in thoughts. So we have memory, and that's kind of local to us, to this brain. It's the sum of our experience. We also have imagination, which is kind of creating or changing what we know into something different, into something new. Maybe we combine objects that we remember. You might see a chair, for example, and then think, oh, maybe I could do something different with that, and I could put something else on the back of it, or I could make a shelf out of it, or I could, construct something different. That's using imagination, which is another form of thoughts, ideas, ponderings like that. But again, it's based on objects, things that we've seen already, or we've are in our store consciousness. You see, so thoughts are primarily from our past experience. Um, Now, we also get other thoughts, as well as these local past memory and imagining thoughts. We also get what's called intuition or synchronicity. So sometimes you can think of something, you can think of a person, for example, and you've never thought of that person for many, many years, maybe someone from your past. And then that very same day, you see them or they appear in some form. That synchronicity is kind of like you'd almost predicted that the person would come back into your moment, your day. Very interesting. It works with objects as well. So sometimes a thought just arrives, and it's about somebody, and then yep, there they are again. So that's very interesting because then that's showing that there's a connectedness, as well as just local thoughts. There's a kind of collective thoughts because maybe you were thinking about the person, maybe they were thinking about you, and so they decided to ring you or come towards you, and you then connected. So sometimes our thoughts guide us or move us in often mysterious ways. The thoughts arrive and synchronicity happens. So we see synchronicity quite a lot in life. It's not really coincidences, it's things that seem to just happen at the right time wherever you are. And often the thoughts can push us into that location, into that place where we then see what we need to see. So that's very interesting as well. And I sort of call this a global thought. Rather than localized, there's other things involved, there's other thoughts involved that are kind of combining to for us to see something. So I find that very interesting as well. But really, the essence of thought is it arrives. It's like our mind is a receiver for thoughts. Thoughts just come. They come unbidden, now, and they go as well. So, I can give you suggestions. I can say chocolate, think of chocolate, and you'll think of chocolate in the way that you've experienced chocolate before. But then, you can just let that be, and the thought about chocolate dissolves and disappears, and you're no longer thinking about chocolate. There's a little gap, and then maybe another thought arises. So your body is constantly receiving thoughts, either suggestions or what you see. So what you're looking at on TV or reading or whatever, you're inputting thoughts in a way into your store. And so if you think of your past experiences, if they were difficult or had problems in them, your mind remembers those, and in your store, it remembers things that are maybe a bit frightening or a bit tense or a bit disturbing. And often you get the associated body feeling with that too. So things like anxiety or anger or something like that, there's an emotion attached to the thought that's attached to your past. And that's kind of how it all works. Now, it's interesting with thoughts because we think we're thinking the thoughts, but that's just another thought. So you get like, I am thinking about this, I am pondering this, I am anxious at the moment, I am this, I am that. So when you're in those thoughts, you believe that it's you that's creating those thoughts. And in a sense, your store is remembering. There's a conscious awareness of remembrance of what's happened in the past, and then that comes up today. But there's no thinker, there's no person, there's not a person in your mind that's saying, right, send the thought out. It just arises. It's a bit like breathing. Your breath arises and dissolves, arises, dissolves, inhale, exhale. It's like your heart beating. Your heart is beating. You're not thinking to do that. You're not thinking to breathe. It's the same with thoughts. You're not thinking to think. When you think about it, thoughts just arrive. It's not like you're plotting, right, I need to make sure I have another 10 thoughts coming in just now. It just kind of happens. And a lot of it happens through our subconscious mind. Things that worry us, we tend to overthink or overanalyze, so more thoughts arrive because we're used to thinking more. So it's all very, very interesting where thoughts come from. And basically, when you start to meditate and you practice mindfulness and beingness, which is kind of creating the gaps between your thinking, because there are spaces between thoughts as well. A thought arrives, stays for a bit, and goes away again if you're watching it. In between thoughts, there can be gaps. There can be no thought. There's not thinking as a constant stream the whole time. So there are moments of space. And the more you sit in meditation, that space kind of expands, if you like, and thoughts arrive in that space, but they're kind of contained in a bigger space. And so you're not just automatically just following your subconscious thoughts. There is a space that holds them and is aware of them. And so this awareness is looking at the thoughts and then has options, because it's not automatically just racing off with that thought. It's having options of like, well, actually, don't really need this thought, or this thought's irrelevant just now. I can let it dissolve. I can just let it go by, like the chocolate thought. I can just let it go by. And there's no real thing that you do in order to let it go by. You're just changing your attention, really. Rather than your attention on the thought, you change your attention to the present moment. It's like, well, I can hear sounds, I can feel breath. That's what's going on now. So if I come back to now, which is what we do in a lot of meditations, the thought dissolves, the thought disappears because you haven't put energy into it. You haven't strengthened it with your awareness, you see. So your thoughts only really become an issue when you're focused on them with your awareness too much, and you lose your awareness actually, and you enter the thought's content, and the thought's content you start to believe and follow blindly as truth. So what this video is about having an awareness that thoughts will come, but also having the awareness that these thoughts are not you. You're not the thinker. Thoughts just arrive. You're a receiver from local sources and from global sources. So if that's true, then a thought that arrives, you don't need to believe straight away. You can look at it. You can be, I'm aware that there is a thought, and the thought says chocolate. But I don't need to follow the chocolate thought and, go and get a chocolate bar. I'll just let it be. Off it goes. And you can do this with all your thoughts. So if there's a thought that's like, I'm no good, I'm struggling, I'm over emotional all the time, I'm too busy thinking all the time, I'm overthinking, I'm a mess. Why am I like this? I'm a failure. I am something. I am something. Don't trust the thought, I am something. Stop. If you say you're a failure, come back to your moment, breathe, enter awareness. Awareness is not thinking. I've done a whole video on this. Awareness is not thinking. Awareness observes the thought of I'm a failure. And you're looking at it and you're like, that's interesting that that's come up. Is it come up because this current situation is reminding me of a past memory? Probably. And then that past memory had the attribute of failure or shame or something in it. And now I'm attributing that past thing to what's going on now. That's interesting. Therefore, all I'm doing is following an old past pattern, an old past thought. I think I can let go of that. I'll let it go by. I'm just going to switch my focus not to I'm a failure to how I'm feeling, actually, because how I'm feeling is what's truth in the present moment. And how do you feel? Well, failure can make you feel heavy, maybe, or tense, or a bit tight, or a bit constricted. So you kind of open up your body. You're like, oh, let's breathe. Maybe I'll smile, I'll do different things. And then the thought of failure is kind of ebbing away. You're not focusing on it with your awareness. You're focusing on smiling, or you're focusing on the ground under your feet. You're bringing your mindfulness into practice. And the more you practice awareness of the moment, as opposed to following the thought or believing that thought immediately, you'll find that the thought will dissolve because you're not giving it energy. And that's what this is all about. Change where you focus. Because if you're focusing on thinking, your thinking is not really real. It's not even you. It's from your past. It's not about now. Why are we following them? So just let them come and go. You don't have to follow a thought. You are not your thoughts. Even when you believe it really strongly, it's still a thought. And sometimes it's not even your thoughts. The thoughts are global, as I say. Someone else might be thinking about something, and it's received through your mind, and then we take it on. So sometimes that happens in arguments or discussions, and someone is maybe agitated or whatever, and they're saying something, and then you don't believe them or anything, and you're feeling okay, but then you go away and you're feeling agitated. It's like you've taken someone else's interpretation or thought, and it's going in, and all of these things can happen. So just to finish, very simple. If thoughts arrive, watch them with awareness. And that's what meditation is. When you sit and meditate, you'll notice there's a lot of thoughts. Most of them are about our past. And with meditation, you just let them go by because you're meditating. You might have an idea to do something, but you're like, I'm meditating. So you just let it go and it dissolves. The more you meditate, the more you're not in the river of your thoughts, the more you're kind of stood on the riverbank looking at your thoughts. And that's awareness. And awareness is not the thoughts. Awareness is your true nature, is your real self. Awareness is beingness, isness. So awareness is simply being here. being here now and feeling how it is you're feeling and noticing what there is to notice in this moment. And it might be a thought. It might be a thought of failure or a thought of disgruntlement or a thought of something. And you'll also notice that that thought will be producing something in your body at the same time because that's connected too. So if there's a lot of pain and suffering in your body, have a look at your thoughts. Are your thoughts of a negative nature? Are you always saying, woe is me, I'm fed up, I hate this, I'm depressed? It's going to do something to your body. Or are you aware of those thoughts and you're just like, oh, I don't need that thought. That was a bit of a thought, wasn't it? I don't need that. I don't need it, but that's another thought. I don't need it. But it's kind of like I'm going to just change focus, awareness. Let's come into body. Let's come into this moment. What's actually happening? And what's actually happening is very peaceful and calm. There's not really much going on in the present moment. It's just kind of this flowiness. And it's a very peaceful, calm, lovely place to be. So that's the video. Just a little discussion on what thoughts are and a little discussion on how you can see them. We all have awareness. We can all see our thoughts. There is a knowing of our thoughts. But what we're doing with meditation is we're expanding that knowing so that we can really catch our thinking and catch ourselves from falling into old past memory, past programmed thoughts, past storyline thoughts that we've believed in the past, and to challenge them here and now in the moment, and to disregard them, to just let them be, to let them go on their way. It's like, yep, that's an old thought. That's old Craig talking. Old Craig says he was a failure, and here's the thought again. Off you go. New Craig, new moment. What's happening now? Come back to this moment. And then they lose their hold over you. They lose their strength, and you find that your body improves. Everything starts to heal. You start to vibrate higher. Your energy is more tuned into awareness. That's the highest vibration you can get to, is no thought, is being so present that you are of the whole universe. You're not a person anymore going, I am this, or I am that, or I don't like this. You've kind of transcended personhood in a way. So just practice mindfulness. And mindfulness is observing and coming back to this moment without judging the moment. If you're judging, then you're thinking. And sometimes we do that subconsciously. We have to become aware that we're doing it and aware that we're losing the moment. And that can cause us a lot of problems. So let the thoughts come and let the thoughts go. I hope this has been a useful video. Thank you so much for watching. Have a lovely day. See you in another video. Bye just now.